Routing and I/O. Let's take some time and get acquainted with our input-output section. There are two ways to route audio in Live. Number 1, via the Audio To section, and 2, via the Audio From section. They are slightly different and have different uses. First, in the Audio From section, we have the Input Type Chooser. That's where we choose where audio comes from, whether that be from the inputs on our sound card or routing from other tracks. The Audio To section determines the destination of audio in a given track. It's the variations on this input-output theme that give us all the options we could ever dream of. Simple routing. Here, I have an audio loop on track 1. I'd like to route that loop to another channel. Well, I'll simply go to the Audio From section of our new audio track and select track 1, audio 1. I'm going to turn the monitor on so I can hear both the original and the routed signal. Let's try sending the same loop to yet another track. The real advantage of sending the same loop to different tracks is we can simultaneously try out different processing options. But maybe we'd like to do the exact opposite. More often, we'd like to take a track and create a submix of several tracks. Here I have two audio tracks that I'd like to route to a new audio track, which I'll rename Group. In the first audio track, House Beat, I simply select under the Audio To section the track Group, so it sends audio there. To avoid any unwanted audio coming from any external source, make sure we select No Input in Group's Audio From dialog. Press the Monitor In button so we can hear what's going on. Now our track Group becomes a submix of our two tracks. Now that we have grouped our track, let's make a new clip on one of Group's slots. Let's arm the track, click on one of the circles, and done. There it is. This is how we bounce tracks. Let's rename our new clip Bounce. It works the same way if we want to bounce our virtual instrument tracks. Here we have a drum loop with impulse going. I'd like to store that permanently as an audio track. Although we could have pasted it onto our arrangement view and exported the audio, the far better way to do it is to send its output to another channel and record the output, giving us a nicely cut clip that already is in our session view ready to go. Let's send the output of the MIDI track using the Send To function. Remember that I could have just as easily gone to our audio track and selected the audio from the MIDI track to be routed. In this scenario, either method works. Let's arm the track and we can see the audio being routed through. Hit record on the clip and voila! Let's rename our clip Bounce Instrument. For this section, make sure you've seen the video on recording audio. Wouldn't it be great to record the same audio signal twice, once with effects and the other dry? That way, we can capture something unique in the moment that may be hard to recreate later, but still have the dry option hanging around just in case we overdid it. Sometimes a guitar player might like to hear a little echo or delay to get the timing right. Well, here's how you do it. Let's take two audio tracks. One we'll call dry and the other we'll call wet. The idea is that we put some effects on the dry channel. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but bear with me. It will record the signal pre-effects on that channel, but simultaneously send the output post-effects to another channel, which will record the delay. For our sake, I have a guitar loop on audio 6 going into channel 7. If you want, you can pretend I've got my studio guitar wizard all ready to shred. The same functions apply. Send the audio to the dry channel. Turn on our effects on the dry track. Then let's send the wet signal to the track called wet. using the Audio 2 command. I know it seems weird that we're putting effects on the dry channel. Just remember that the audio on the dry channel gets recorded before it hits the effect chain and is therefore dry. And the audio coming out of the effect chain gets recorded on the wet channel and is therefore wet. So hold down Command and we can arm both tracks. Otherwise, you can only arm one track at a time. So let's trigger a recording by clicking on the scene. Let's listen to our dry track and take off our effects. Press Alt and it will disable everything in the chain. Now let's listen to our wet track. So our guitar came into the dry channel and was recorded there, and then went into the effects chain and then was recorded in the audio track called wet. Sidechain outputs. Here we have an example of a plugin like Vocator by Native Instruments that we can use as a sidechain input. A vocoder needs a carrier wave. In this case, we'll be using the pad on track 9, and a formant, the vocal, on track 10. The plugin is running on the track with the pad on it. We want to feed the vocal through Vocator's sidechain so we can put the vocal's imprint on the pad. We can now go to our vocal track, acting as our formant, and we will send it to the plugin sidechain via the Audio 2 menu. You can choose to send it to track 9 Vocator. So let's pick the sidechain input. Now let's listen to the new sound. I can't go into depth on Vocator, but you can see that we have a vocoded sound. Resampling. Resampling is a great way for a quick, clip-size mixdown. If at any time you like what's going on in live, and you feel it worthy of storing in a clip, then just create an audio track. Just route Live's output to your new audio track's input by changing its audio from dialogue to resampling. Then arm the track for recording and trigger the clip. There we are, instant mixdown. Multiple outputs. Let's say we want to process sounds from Impulse on individual outputs. Like say you want to process your snare on a different track or have a separate one for your hi-hats. We will take a MIDI loop on Impulse. Now let's create some audio tracks and select Impulse in the audio dialog. And then select the individual sounds from the chooser that appears below. Make sure you turn on your monitor in button so you can hear what's happening. That concludes our tutorial on input and output. The sky is the limit.